Good evening. Welcome to the Village of Wappingers Falls meeting of the Mayor and the Board of Trustees for today, Wednesday, April 29th, 2020. Before we get started, I'd like to ask to have the flag put up on the screen, and I'd like to ask us to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United
States of America and
to
to the republic
for which it
which it
stands,
stands, one
one
nation,
nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty
liberty
and justice for all.
Kind of hard to do that.
Okay, and would the clerk do the roll call
Mayor Alexander,
here?
Trustee Markajon, absent. Trustee Davis,
Here.
Trustee Komornick,
Here,
Trustee Huber,
Present.
Trustee Witten,
Trustee Witten is trying to log on right now. He's having technical problems.
Trustee Panessa,
here,
Village Attorney Wallace.
Here.
Okay, for tonight's meeting, I just would like to remind everybody of what's going on. I have confirmed with the village attorney that tonight's meeting has been convened in accordance with the governor's March 13th, 2020 Executive Order 202.1 and all superseding orders, which suspends certain provisions of the open meetings law to allow a municipal board to convene a meeting via video conferencing. In accordance with the executive order, the public has been provided with the ability to view tonight's work session meeting, and a transcript will be provided at a later date. I have done a roll call of the board members, and there is a quorum present for this meeting. I have also confirmed with the village clerk that this meeting has been duly noticed. We have fulfilled our legal notice requirements by posting notice on the village's bulletin boards, faxing to the library and news organizations, etc., posting notice on the village's homepage of its website, and listing on the village's Facebook page. So we're going to get started with the meeting, but I would like to ask to suspend the rules and ask if we could make a motion to suspend the rules to allow for a change in the agenda order.
I'll make it.
Second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Trustee Davis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? And there's none showing as opposed. And so I would like to ask if we could, and ask for a motion to move the resolution for procedures and the discussion preceding that to the beginning of the agenda. Could I get a motion?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second,
Seconded by Trustee Komornick. So we had a motion by Trustee Huber and then second by Trustee Komornick. And so I'd like to ask the attorney to walk us through the resolution.
Okay, so the purpose of this rules of procedure that we put together for your consideration is to adopt the uniform rules of procedure to better effectively run our meetings. Many of these rules we already subscribe to, but we just don't have them in writing in a codified manner so that the public can, view them, see them, and know what to expect. I would ask that if you do pass these rules of procedure, which I feel are long overdue, that they be posted on the website and in various meeting venues for the public to see. It's my opinion that that business will flow much faster and more smoothly when all participants of the meetings are familiar with the rules. So they'll be out there for the public to see, and I believe that you'll find that our meetings are going to go much smoother. They'll be more organized, and there'll be less, there'll be more order. And really, they follow the open meetings law so that we can be in compliance, total compliance with the open meetings law. And these would be obviously posted everywhere for the entire village to see. So having said that, I would give the floor back to the mayor and to introduce the resolution, which is in your packet. It's self-explanatory. This has been sent last week for circulation. Are there any questions?
Okay, so I'm just going to just read through this resolution, and then I'm going to ask for a motion. So first, there will be regular meetings. The Board of Trustees conducts a regular meeting on the second Wednesday of each month at 7 at the Village Hall. And the meeting dates that fall on holidays will be moved to the next day. The workshop meetings, which are the same as village board meetings and do allow for people to vote, the board to vote, will be conducted at 5 o'clock on the last Wednesday of the month.
Mayor, do you want to post this so that the public can follow along
Yeah.
this resolution and proposed rules?
Okay, and special meetings of the board, that now I'm on Roman numeral number 3. The special meetings are all board meetings other than regular meetings. The mayor may call a special meeting upon notice to the entire board. Special meetings must be for business of a truly emergent nature and shall be held at the call of the village clerk upon direction of the mayor or upon filing with the village clerk a written request signed by any 2 members of the village board. Only business specified in the public notice thereof may be transacted at a special meeting. Notice shall be at least 72 hours before the date fixed for holding the meeting. A quorum of the board in number 4 must be physically present to conduct business. A quorum of a 7-member board, as we have, is 5, regardless of vacancies. Executive sessions, the board must hold executive sessions in accordance with New York State Public Officers Law, Section 105. All executive sessions must be entered into by a motion made from a properly noticed and conducted open meeting. The village clerk and mayor will prepare the agenda for these meetings. The village will publish agendas for both regular and workshop meetings as noticed to the public the Monday before the meeting. However, the mayor or a majority of the Board of Trustees may add items at any time. If necessary, a supplemental agenda may be distributed at the beginning of the meeting. Any 2 members of the Board of Trustees may by motion at a regular meeting place an item on the agenda for a subsequent meeting. Number 7, voting pursuant to New York State Village Law and General Construction Law. Each member of the board has 1 vote. The mayor may vote on any matter, but must vote in case of a tie. A majority of the totally authorized voting power, 5 or more, is necessary to pass a matter unless otherwise specified by state law. For example, bond resolutions require a majority of 4 or more. A vote may upon any question must be taken by ayes and nays, and the names of the members present and their votes must be entered in the minutes.
If I could just interject there, that is a mistake. Actually, the bond resolutions require a majority of 5 or more, and they require a super majority. So I would ask that we'll make a change at Roman numeral 7 to reflect that. And 5, and the majority of the total is 4 or more. So we we changed, we have to just interchange the 5 and the 4. So I apologize for that.
Okay, the general rules, the mayor presides at the meeting. In the mayor's absence, the deputy mayor presides. The presiding officer may debate, move, and take any action that may be taken by other members of the board. Each board member must be given the opportunity to speak on every issue. Board members are not required to rise, but in the interest of orderly discussion, must be recognized by the presiding officer before making motions and speaking. Every motion must be seconded before being put to a vote. All motions must be recorded in their entirety in the board's minutes. Once recognized, a member may not be interrupted when speaking unless it is to call the member to order. If a member is called to order, the member must stop speaking until the question of order is determined, and if in order, the member must be permitted to proceed. There is no limit to the number of times a member may speak on a question. Motions to close or limit debate may be entertained and require a 2/3 vote to pass. The guidelines for public comment. The public may speak only during the public comment periods of the meeting or at such other time as the majority of the board allows. Speakers must step to the front of the room. They must give their name, address, and the identity of their organization if applicable. They must be recognized by the presiding officer. They must limit their remarks to 3 minutes per public comment period, depending on the number of people who wish to speak on a specific subject, and at the discretion of the mayor, time limits of 2 minutes per person or other similar time frame may be applied to each speaker. Speakers may not yield any remaining time they have to another speaker. Board members may, with the permission of the mayor or presiding officer, interrupt a speaker during their remarks, but only for the purpose of clarification or information. All remarks must be addressed to the board as a body and not to specific members thereof or the audience. Speakers must observe the commonly accepted rules of courtesy, decorum, dignity, and good taste. Interested parties or their representatives may address the board by written communications. For public hearings, written communications submitted in advance are considered at the hearings and provided as backup material. During the comment period, speakers may address the board on issues affecting the village. The board will respond to specific questions if the information is immediately available during the report section of the meeting, if not, as soon as it is practical. The aforementioned public comment guidelines apply to all regular meetings. However, during public hearings, the mayor or presiding officer may recognize questions from the floor. Section 10, the village clerk or his designated representative is responsible for taking minutes. Minutes must consist of a record or summary of all motions, proposals, resolutions, and any other matter formally voted upon and the vote thereon. Minutes must be taken at executive session of any action that is taken by formal vote. Executive session minutes must consist of a record or summary of the final determination of such action and the date and vote thereon, provided, however, that such summary need not include any matter which is not required to be made public by the New York State Freedom of Information Law. Minutes are not recorded for work sessions unless an action is taken by the board at that meeting. Minutes must also include the following: name of the board, date, place, and time, notation of the presence or absence of board members, name and title of other village officials and employees participating, and the names of audience members that have signed a voluntary sign-in sheet, summary of communications presented to the board, reports made by board or other village personnel, and time of adjournment and signature of village clerk or person who took the minutes, if not the clerk. The clerk or the representative is responsible for creating a draft of the minutes within the time frame provided for under New York State Open Meetings Law. The board approves the minutes at the next meeting. Amendments to the minutes require approval by the board. Guidelines for use of recording equipment. All regular and workshop meetings of the board are webcast and televised to the extent possible. All members of the public and all public officials are allowed to tape or video record record public meetings. Recording is not allowed during executive sessions. Recording should be done in a manner that does not interfere with the meeting. The mayor or presiding officer may determine whether the recording is being done in an intrusive manner, taking into consideration the brightness of lights, distance from deliberations of the board, size of the equipment, and ability of the public to participate. If the recording is determined to be intrusive and interferes with the meeting, the mayor may direct that the recording be stopped or undertaken in a different manner or location. Meetings shall be adjourned by motion. The Board of Trustees may amend the foregoing procedures by a majority vote. Okay, are there any questions?
None for me.
Okay,
None.
that being said, could I get a motion?
I'll make it.
Okay, Trustee Huber, a second.
Second.
Second by Trustee Davis.
Witten.
Second.
Oh, Witten is on. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so that being said, I would like to return to the meeting agenda. And at this time, I'm going to leave the shared document up and ask our village engineer, John Zarowski, to lead us through the portion of the meeting having to do with the projects that are in process right now. And so, yes, go ahead, John.
I'm John Zarowski with KC Engineering. I'm just we'll walk through the projects we have currently active in the village. Right now we have Frantic Reefs Park. It was under construction for both the upper and lower overlook improvements. As of the 27th of March, the contractor Secom pulled off pursuant to the governor's executive order. Right now the DOT entrance is being resubmitted because the DOT has decided that it, although it approved it once, it now wants us to revise it. We are also asking if the board would respectfully consider an increase in our engineering fees, as the project has was initially estimated to be $700,000 and now is well over $1 million. I wrote that down somewhere. And we had to do a considerable amount of additional work with the geotechnical services and rebidding the project. It's all summarized in Nancy's letter to the board, Nancy Clark. We're still hoping that this will be done in September, but obviously that'll be contingent on whether or not they can move forward. I will forge ahead here. The pedestrian safety improvement project, again, is also sort of on hold. Right now it's in front of the DOT, waiting for them to approve the award of the project to the low bid contractor of Contact Construction. We have to wait for them to approve it before we send out the notice of award to the contractor. Utility improvements contract number 5 is moving ahead. We've met with the DPW, the county DPW. We were preparing drawings. We're about to submit to them. As part of this, we are doing, this is the interconnect project. And this project also, this is a continuing project. We never really set it aside, but this is the 5th part of the drinking water state revolving fund projects.
Scroll up, Mayor.
What's that?
I was asking the mayor to scroll up.
Oh yeah, scroll up a little bit. Okay, so here we are. So we are working on the line down Losey Road to connect to the town of Wappingers. It includes a PRV vault. We're looking again, because this is a continuation of projects we've been working on. This would be this year's projects. We're asking if the board would consider a change order to increase our fee to $82,806 for this coming year's work, which includes the design, the administration, construction, inspection, and all the approvals. We are also going to the next item, which, yes, that's on your screen. We are working on the USDA report. It's about to be submitted. We just need a little bit of the financial information for the water services for the village. We have been working with the water board to get that information. This is a rolling deadline, but we're about to submit. Going to the next one, the future water improvements. There's a bunch of items here. I won't get into each one of them. We are looking to get Chase funding for that for the 2021 Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. We actually have started the preparation for that, even though we haven't technically been authorized. It's not a big lift for us, as we've already done the USD report, engineering report, which is a much bigger report. That report can actually be thinned down to be used for the Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. So again, that's not a big lift for us. We're going to get the initial draft in. The date for that is May 15th. So we're well ahead on that one, but we are moving forward on that just because the deadline is looming. We are working on the grease trap, and the brownfields is on hold. The water infrastructure study has been submitted as a draft. We haven't got any more comments on that. And then the Podgy Terrace sewer main and water main extensions, again, we haven't got any direction on where to go with that from the village yet. So we're just waiting. That's all of our projects.
Okay, are there any questions from the board?
I got one. The TAP project, what DOT's holding that up?
Yeah, DOT, we have been bugging them pretty regularly. They have to give us an approval of the low bidder and to award. And that's just part of the regs, and we just have not heard from them.
Is that COVID related or?
They have, from what I understand, that the DOT has furloughed a bunch of people. So yes, I believe it is a COVID related delay.
Okay.
We are getting close to the deadline though for awarding the project for the contract. So we are pushing hard to get something out of the DOT.
Mayor, I got a quick question on it.
Yep.
I'm a little confused about the change orders for the fees that are going up. I thought the reasons why we did these change orders originally was to drop the cost down of the wall, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not sure where these change orders are coming from.
Yeah, so John, could you speak to the
Okay.
savings on the wall?
The wall itself was going to, well, like the wall itself, the contractor, we had proposed a I would call the mafia block wall. It's a big, heavy, gravity-based wall. The contractor came back in and came up with a design for a different wall, which has been submitted and reviewed and approved at this point. So there'll be savings on that wall. We had gone with the change order for the engineering is because the project is really based on the fact that the project is significantly larger than was initially anticipated when we did our engineering estimate on it. The project was only supposed to be $700,000, and at this point it's what, over $1 million. So it's like 35% more for the engineering or for the actual overall project than was initially planned because of the scope creep and stuff. And
You're gonna need 115,000 altogether then, as Nancy's report was reading, correct?
that's my understanding. Yeah, let me bring hers up. Change order. This one.
85,000 plus 30,000.
Right, and my computer is stuck. I've asked it to do one too many things. All right.
So what actual engineering increase is there? What is it for?
Well, it's for work that a lot of it we've already completed. We had additional geotechnical work. We had additional, we bid project twice. Because of the first time we put it out to bid, there were actually no bidders on it. It was just poorly timed.
Yeah, because it went out too late.
Yeah, it went out in the summertime too late, so.
So I don't understand how the
Yeah,
village
so
has
why are we paying for it? I'm not.
the cost for that because of that. And the geo, I'm pretty sure that we already paid for all that.
We did.
You paid for the driller, but we had to do the
What
stability
engineering was
slopes.
involved with the
There's a
drilling?
slope stability analysis to design the wall,
I don't remember approving
so the
Wasn't
wall
that
doesn't
a
fail.
fee that we paid for that?
Ain't happening.
Well, again, you did pay for that. This is for the additional. So we were working on the budget that we had initially, and we are, coming close to losing or using that up. I don't love my
Some things never change.
I don't see the necessity.
But nevertheless, John, we did realize the savings by using the newer design of the wall from the contractor.
Right.
The actual wall itself was cheaper to build.
Yes.
Okay.
I thought the reason we changed the wall is because the one that was spec that we couldn't get. So this is the reason why we changed it.
That's why the contractor changed it. Yes.
Well, the
But there was-
contractor can't change it unless they go through you, so I don't, this doesn't make it a lot of sense.
When they changed the wall, they had to do their own design for the wall versus our design for the wall.
Yeah, so who approved the design for the wall?
As part of the submittal process, we approved the design for the wall,
So there you go.
but we didn't stamp the design. We only reviewed the design in that situation. Whereas the other
This
one,
is
we
the first time that we're hearing about this. Is
Yeah, this
he
is.
just wants to prove
Not,
something's not right here.
yeah, I don't like it.
So the whole project's gonna be 1,118,593 then. If my calculation's correct. That's gonna be a grand total. You're gonna go up 115,000.
But Kevin, you're talking about you're talking about an increase due to something else, and we're talking, so there's two different things happening at the same time. One is an increase about a separate item, and then which doesn't have anything to do with the wall, and one is a decrease that has to do with the wall design itself.
I'm reading it wrong.
No, it's not, you're not reading it wrong. I'm just saying that when you take the total change, it includes an increase and a decrease. The increase is bigger than the decrease, but the decrease required a new drawing of the wall from our engineer rather than just the contractor. And stop me if I'm misspeaking, John Zarowski.
unfortunately, as we're talking about this, and this has been handled through the Poughkeepsie group, and I don't know all the details of the design because before I became your engineer. So my understanding is yes, that we did have to review the design, if that's what you're saying. I'm trying to bring the notes up from Nancy and I'm failing here. My computer is crashing.
I remember sitting down with the mayor and Nancy in the mayor's office, and the way it was explained to us was that this wall was going to be a savings on our part and their part, and easier for them. And I guess I'm just confused on the savings part when I got to give them $30,000 more. That's my savings. That's my, or else I would have never gone with it and we could have stuck with the other wall.
Yeah, but there's two things though, Kevin. There's one is the engineering and one is the cost of the wall itself. So,
Well, I don't know why we would approve something that would have cost us more in the long run than some something just doesn't make sense here. Why would we have a wall that was cheap, but it would cost us more in engineering fees?
It doesn't cost us more in engineering fees than the wall. The wall itself was cheaper than the original wall.
Yes.
They
And
gave us the
who
same.
gave the contractor permission to go ahead and change his wall? I mean, the board never got approval of this.
Yeah, we all met, actually you were out, Brian. That's why it was just Kevin and myself. You were either away or you had been injured. I can't remember which one, but the contractor approached the village because the contractor decided that they had a better way to build the wall than the one that we had put in the original set of plans. And so they came back to us and they asked us if we could do it a different way. And they showed us their plan for doing it a different way. And we agreed to have our engineer do the drawing on our plans to give back to the contractors to change the way that the wall was built. That is the engineering that we're talking about spending money on, but the cost of the newer wall was cheaper than the old wall.
So who gave the permission for the $30,000 increase on engineering fees?
That is what we're talking about tonight. But we did agree to this concept at that meeting, Kevin and I.
Well, I think $30,000 for an engineering fee is ridiculous when we already had one.
The engineering fee for this job was based on a $700,000 project. And now we're well over $1 million because of the additional items that happened with the project. And it's in line with what would be expected on an engineering project, a $1 million engineering project for the overall engineering fee.
I just want to see, are we understanding what it is exactly that we're looking at? I'm just want to ask the board, unless you want to have somebody bring it back to us with more detail.
Yeah, that's what I think. I think we need a better explanation on what the difference from what we originally did, what the plan is now, and what it cost us to get there. Because right now, all I'm hearing is a $30,000 blueprint. But whatever. I think we need more details.
Okay, so
I just can't off the top of my head. Maybe Kevin and Brian can, because especially Brian, he's in that business. But if the job has grown that much more in scope, then what's grown? What's the addition? Why is it 35% higher? And why is tell us what we're paying our $30,000 for.
Well, I think that's in here, correct? If I'm correct, right?
I can't hear you, Kevin. What'd you say?
Everybody's got to mute their phone.
The way I take it is it's more for KC for the bidding, or not the bidding process, but for the engineering of the land, correct?
It was for the engineering of the newly designed wall.
Yeah.
It's not just the engineering of the newly designed wall. It's the overall project's scope has gone from 700,000 to over $1 million.
Yes, we
That's the difference.
Here's my question. So the project is $1,353,593. We are saving money with this new wall. The saving of this money, is it more or less than the savings than for what we're trying to vote on tonight?
I don't know the amount of the savings off the top of my head. I'd have to get back to you on that.
I think this needs just to come back to us with more information.
Okay. I'm fine with that.
Okay, so why don't we set up a meeting with Kevin and Brian with,
I'd like to bring Nancy in on it because she's more familiar with the project.
That's
Mayor,
fine.
can you talk to the increase in scope of the project?
I can, but this is right now. Let's do that at the next meeting. But that is something that we reviewed back in
I know.
August through November last year, and it had a lot to do with the way that the wall and the pathway down to the amphitheater was being constructed. So when we did that original, when we did the original bonding and reconciled it to the grant work that the grants that we have for this property, we reconciled all of that extra work in one of those early autumn meetings. Which was done before we put this out to bid.
Yes.
So I'll get that back and we'll go back over that. Okay, so I guess we will do the change order for the DWSRF project. And that is for the water grant work that we have with the Environmental Facilities Corporation. Are there any questions about that?
No.
Okay, if not, could I have a motion to approve KC Engineering for the DWSRF change order 4 for $82,806 to finish the remaining design, administration, and construction of the contract 5 scope. And this has to do with the water grant that we received from the Environmental Facilities Corporation in 2016 to finish up that project.
I'm still not happy with that.
Do you have a question, Ronnie?
No.
Oh,
I'm just thinking a little bit on this. I'll make the motion.
Okay, could I get a second? Okay, no second. All right, next item on the agenda is we have received the information necessary to re-levy county water to the county, the unpaid water bills for $89,145.91, the unpaid sewer bills for $79,141.78, the unpaid sanitation for $41,795.33, and property maintenance for 10 Market Street, $11,834.51. And I'm going to put these all together if that's okay with Craig. I think that's okay. So could we get a motion to re-levy those amounts to the Dutchess County?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Huber. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, none opposed? All right, then the next item on the agenda is we have the budget hearing. And so at this time, I'm going to bring up the budget. Okay, so
I'm going to leave the meeting at this point. Does
Yep.
anybody need anything from me? We good?
Yep.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Thanks,
Aye,
John.
Thanks, John.
Okay, take care. Bye.
Next item, so this year's budget shows a 2% increase in the tax levy, so we've stayed under the tax cap. This is the revenue section, and as we presented with the tentative budget, there are no significant differences until on the revenue side at all. So all of the items for revenue are the same as the ones that we presented at the tentative budget and at the budget meeting that we had on April 22nd. So just as a general note, we have drastically marked down things that we think are not going to be high amounts next year, and those include sales tax. We expect that there's going to be a drastic decrease in sales tax. In fact, the only reason that we have as high a number marked down here is because the contract that we have with the county shows that we would be promised a floor amount. So they split up a $25 million portion with the municipalities, and if they don't collect $25 million in sales taxes in Dutchess County, they they make up the difference for us. So we show $150,000 for that. We left utilities, cable the same, franchise fees the same. Those are from the hydro facility, and we've marked down zoning and planning board fees as well as fines. And the rest is pretty much the same as past years. Okay, when we get into the expenditures, we have not changed from the tentative budget, although we took a small amount out of the contractual items for the court. We're thinking that they probably won't travel next year. And we reduced the contractual line for the mayor. We reduced the fiscal agent fees down to a number that's probably good enough for what we need next year. We reduced the some engineering items that have to do with grant items here, and we reduced small amounts out of the building lines. We reduced some claims since the tentative budget, and we reduced the contingency you see here by $26,000. The village does have a very strong fund balance, so we are sitting on approximately $450,000 in fund balance, and that is something that we could access if there was a real emergency. And this contingency is meant to add to that, so $94,000 was judged to be sufficient. One of the reasons we had to reduce it was because we found that we were, because of the bail reform and other law changes that happened last year, we knew that we would need another person to do paperwork in the police office, and so that increased the dispatcher line by $25,000. Let's see. So the rest of the police, fire, and safety inspection, which is the zoning department, has stayed the same. The highway department has stayed the same as the tentative budget. So the parks, we've gone down to a part-time service in the parks. Okay, and
What's Mayor, quick question on the parks, the part-time. What's that position?
that would be the the position that we had a full-time employee for, we're suggesting that we should put in a part-time employee there this year.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Planning and zoning stayed the same since the tentative budget. And then in the retirement section with the employee benefits, you'll see that we were very conservative. We have no idea what the retirement, the pension, New York State pension requirements are going to be for next year, but we increased what we think the pension will be needed by $23,000. So we gave it a hefty increase to show that we would be ready for a downturn in the market for the pension. We increased the police pension by 15% from last year, and we show a 10% increase in the medical insurance. And there was a slight difference in the band payments, so we had to increase those a little bit to show what the bond anticipation notes right interest would be for next year. That's not any new items, that's just what it should have been, and it was misreported in the original tentative budget by about $25,000. So here are the wage rates. They're attached. There were some comments made on the Facebook page about the wage rates not being a part of this. The wage rates are made a part of this budget after the actual budget is done. So these are the wage rates that go along with the budget that you saw. The board made a decision to follow the bargaining agreements and to keep all other wages the same for appointed officials and any non-union officials in the village. This is the tax levy calculation. And so the tax levy is calculated by taking the two towns that are in for both homestead and non-homestead. It takes the taxable assessed value and does a pro rata share of the total tax levy versus the total assessed value in each town for each class of property. So there's homestead, which is homeowner occupied properties, and non-homestead, which is pretty much all other properties. And it prorates the tax levy between those four items. And when the calculation is done, the entire calculation is shared with you here. You can see that just for your information, there was a 3% increase in assessed values of property for most properties in the village of Wappingers Falls. And with our 2% increase, there is actually a decrease in the tax rate for all four portions of the municipality. So you see the town of Poughkeepsie homestead side being reduced by 0.16%, and the town of Wappinger.
I hate to interrupt, but we are not seeing your spreadsheet. If that's what you think we are seeing, we're seeing the agenda.
The whole time that I've been talking?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, should I start over?
We leave that up to you.
We were all trying to send you notes, man.
Okay, talking is good, because I was looking at the budget sheet. Can you see it now?
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, I am going to start at the beginning because it doesn't.
Yep.
So, okay, so here is the budget for the village of Wappingers Falls. This is the first page of the budget, and this is the revenue section. The revenue section is made up of the tax levy and all of the other sources of income. We increased the tax levy by 2%, and we left all other streams of revenue for the village of Wappingers Falls the same as at the tentative budget. The overall comment would be that things like the sales tax and planning, zoning fees, and the fines have all been drastically marked down because of the state of the economy and the COVID-19 state of emergency, and the prospect that that will not change in the near future. And starting at the beginning with the expenditures, these have mostly stayed the same since the tentative budget, but there were some changes based on the comments that we got at the April 22nd meeting and during that meeting. So we have reduced the amount of contractual for the court because we figure that they won't be traveling as much, and we reduced some fiscal agent fees by a nominal amount. We kept salaries of non-union and appointed and elected officials the same. The union members of our workforce will get their bargained increase in salaries. We reduced some of the grant project spending that we had that's associated with grants that we have outstanding and in projects that are already in process. And we have made small reductions in some of the building lines. We did add a line for the police building this year. So we show $9,000 budgeted for police. We've never had a line just for that building before. We reduced the contingency after the April 22nd meeting because we saw that there was a need for a greater number of dispatcher time because of the new laws that are the police are challenged to comply with, including bail reform and some of the other paperwork items that they need to collect. So we have a dispatcher working as an administrative assistant for one shift, a week of shifts each week. So let's see. And fire and zoning stayed the same as at the tentative budget. And so did the highway. Parks, we decreased the amount of personal service for the parks from full-time to part-time, and we reduced the assembly type projects that are going on in the village by a lot. We don't show any money here for summer camp. We would be able to add summer camp back in if we're able to figure out a way to do the appropriate amount of social distancing, and it would also have a stream of revenue coming in on the front page, and that would pay for whatever expenditures we made on this page. Okay, so the planning and zoning boards have some expenditures shown, and they're the same as that we showed at the tentative budget, with a slight downward push in just the zoning contractual line. The retirement systems show a large increase where we estimate that the investments that the New York State Pension will make on behalf of its employees will require a larger contribution this year by the employers. So we increased from $153,000 to $176,000 the retirement system. For the civil service employees and the police and fire, we also increased that 15%. We show an increase of 10% in medical, and we had a mistake in the bond anticipation notes which required that we increase the amounts by another $25 to $30,000, it looks like here. We have the salary page. So again, all salaries for non-union employees remained the same. And the calculation of the tax rate was done by the treasurer, and it shows you the whole calculation in 2 pages. It prorates it between non-homestead and homestead for the 2 towns that people live in the village of Wappingers Falls. And at the end of that 2-page calculation, you see in the highlighted area a tax decrease of negative 0.16% for the town of Poughkeepsie homesteaded properties, and the town of Wappinger portion of the village gets a negative 0.71% decrease for the town of Wappinger homestead. The non-homestead town of Poughkeepsie sees a negative 0.72%, and the town of Wappinger sees a little bit more with a negative 0.723% decrease. The library levy calculation is also done by our treasurer. It's sideways. I apologize for that, but it's the same kind of calculation, and it shows a tax levy that's attached for the library portion. Most households pay somewhere between $60 and $90 a year for the library tax. The garbage districts stayed the same as the prior year, and it shows that there's no need for an increase in rates, and that would be the same as last year. We did get some questions. We did have a question from somebody about bulk pickup. So it was our intent to do a 2020 bulk pickup. It was a 2019/2020 bulk pickup, and with COVID-19, it looks like that will stay budgeted and be pushed off to the next fiscal year. But there is money set aside in this budget for that purpose. In the water fund, we've been finishing up the water and sewer projects at the end of the 6 years worth of projects that we've done, and we see a proposed budget that shows a 3% increase in the water rents from last year. That's necessary because all of last year we were finishing up the projects, and we do have a much higher principal and interest payment that is due this next year. We did appeal to our federal representative to ask for principal deferment on our EPA, on our federal backed loans that went along with the grants that we received. So there is not much change in the expenditure section other than the principal and interest payments, and the all other things remain mostly the same as the prior year, with the exception of the well redevelopment. We are required to do the well redevelopment, and that is $34,000 a well. And so there's one well that we need to redevelop out of the 3 wells that we have at the well field, and that's shown here in the budget. We did also increase retirement and medical insurance payments here as well, and we show the increase of the principal and interest payments for the work that was done up through the end of last year here as well, and that's what shows the increase in the overall expenditures. For the sewer fund, we have the same 3% increase. The sewer fund, we closed on that work last year, and so that grant that we had the associated borrowing that went along for the match portion of that grant is in here, and it was the same as last year. And we show that continuing on. So there, in order to keep up with those payments, we still have that 3% increase attached here. So there is a, I was asked, so we know what the risks are in the general fund. We know that the risks are to the fines and to the development portion of our revenue that's coming in. We also know that the county sales tax is going to be suffering a hit. And here, one of the ways that the COVID-19 shutdowns have affected us is that will be losing a significant amount of revenue from the water sales that we make to some of our big box retail stores who've been shut down. Any large assembly locations that have been shut down, such as gyms and bowling alleys, and the 41 restaurants that we have in the village of Wappingers Falls. They are also using a lot less water than they had in the past. They have paid more than their fair share of towards the entire water portion, and that will be missing at this point. So it'll be up to the water board to take a look at the next reading and to figure out what the rates would be in order to make these revenues happen. So that'll be happening at the next water board meeting, and there might be some workshops set up by the water board to go over that and help calculate those numbers. So that is it for the budgets as they stand. Are there any questions from the board?
None from.
No. And are there any comments? If there's no questions from the board, I'm going to ask Rich if he could talk to us about what the requirements would be for public comments.
If anyone from the public wishes to make a comment, I apologize, I got off to a rough start. If anyone from the public wishes to make a comment, if they are watching on YouTube, they cannot do it from YouTube. They need to leave YouTube and join the Zoom meeting. That is at the website. You may, if you're in the Zoom meeting now, simply raise your hand. If you decide to join the Zoom meeting, when you get there, raise your hand and we will recognize you for public comment. That's really it. Pay attention, be courteous. Don't go over 3 minutes, and don't step on other people speaking. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Okay, we're just going to wait a minute for anyone.
Mayor,
Yep.
I wanted to just make sure that the record reflected that we checked with our website coordinator, Todd Bowen, who advised that there were no email comments that were received by the village to be read into the record.
Okay, and we advertised on both our website as well as on Facebook to go back to the website and to look at how to make comments for this meeting. There were the ability to participate live here with this Zoom meeting, and there's also the ability to email comments through a form that we had set up on the website page that you would just click and type in a response, type in a statement. Okay, so
a few more minutes because someone did leave the YouTube broadcast. That gives them a second to get into the Zoom. I don't know if that's where they're headed.
So what I'm going to do, Rich, is I'm going to move down the agenda, and you can stop me verbally, not by text, because I'm looking at the agenda. I'm not looking at the text box. So if anybody needs to stop me during this portion of the meeting, open your mouth and say something, because I'm looking at the items that we're sharing, not at the text box. So we'll just keep.
Understood.
And I'm gonna go to the next part, but people have the ability still to join and make a comment at this point, and that's still open to them. So, okay. So I'm
Mayor,
gonna
to
ask if,
clarify, are you going to move on to the next item on the tonight's agenda?
yeah, so I'd like to ask for a motion to suspend the rules and for the purpose of moving the agenda item of voting on the 2020-2021 budget until after we've gone through these two other resolutions. Could I get a motion?
I'll make it.
And a second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Komornik. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, and that allows people more opportunity to make comment. That's the purpose of that change. And so could we, now that we've suspended the rules, could I get a motion to go on to the resolution for the procurement policy local law? Open the public hearing for that. Should I open the public hearing for that first?
I'll just do some necessary background, and then you can make a motion to open the public hearing.
Okay.
All right, so what you have before you is a new local law that we've been discussing previously about adding a best value component to deviate from the lowest responsible bidder that the general municipal law calls for. Historically, contracts for goods and services required by law to be procured by competitive bidding would routinely go to the lowest responsible bidder, even though the lowest responsible bidder could not offer the best cost effective option over time. Our state municipal law allows the village to authorize by local law purchase contracts and service contracts on the basis of best value as defined in section 163 of the state finance law. So this new law would allow the village to have more flexible options and choices and consider the total value of the procurement over time, which will result in a better value and long-term investment of public funds. It gives you more flexibility, and it gives the village residents more bang for their buck, so to speak. So having said that, I turn the floor back to the mayor, and public, he could open, you guys can either make some comment before you open public hearing or discuss amongst yourselves, or if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Okay, so should I open the public hearing now?
After, unless the board wants to discuss it amongst themselves.
Okay, or is there any discussion from the board?
I
No, it's
have none.
very prudent.
So
Prudent item.
If there's,
I have one, Mayor. I just had to unmute myself. I agree with this, with what we're trying to do here, but the public hearing, if the residents wanted to go down and see it at the village hall, the village hall is open between 4:30 or 8 to 4:30 or 4 o'clock, but no one can go down to the village hall to look at the public hearing. How can we go about doing this still?
are you talking about looking at the document that's in front of you?
Yep. Yep. Well, not, I mean, I don't have it in front of me, but I know what we're doing. Yes.
Can you put the document on the screen?
Isn't it on the screen?
No.
There's not a document on the screen,
Yeah,
right?
there is. Okay,
There it is.
This document has been on the website for an entire week at least. On the proposed agenda, to my knowledge.
It has, and that's all it needs to be.
All right. Anyway, if we're satisfied with that, I have no problem with that. I'm just,
Yeah, this is, we're trying to come up, this is unprecedented times. We're trying to come up with different modes in which to inform the public and actually bring them into these video conference meetings. It's very, very challenging, but, we're trying the best that we can with the limited resources that we have. Actually, the technology is amazing that we could actually share these documents better through these video conference meetings than we can at our actual meetings. But everything has been done according to law here, where it was advertised. There was an opportunity for public comment on the village website. And, obviously it was advertised in both of our local papers for a public hearing. And now we have invited the public here to be heard on this particular local law, as well as the budget and the next local law for your consideration. So I feel like, everything's been done.
I agree. I mean, this law needed to be tightened up, and there was a lot of loose ends in it. I was just curious myself.
I think it's
So you want to tell us what the loose ends are?
Well, from the old law, and we just tightened it all up.
Oh, yes. Okay, I get you. I get you. So this new law here is, so the new law here is okay. 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 So if there's, is there any other discussion on this? I think we're all satisfied with it being on the website.
Yes.
actually, I just want to add to Trustee Huber's comment. We don't have anything on the books really that other than, the general municipal law requirements. This actually allows us to add a best value option component for your consideration. So you'll have more choices now to offer when you're considering these contracts and services. It's win-win for everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's total value. That's good.
Okay, if there's no more discussion, could I have a motion to open the public hearing for the procurement policy resolution for the new local law?
I'll make it.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Trustee Panessa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so are there any public comments on the local law? And I think we have so do we still have okay, are there any people, Rich, that might be making a comment?
You're breaking it.
Nobody is in the meeting room trying to make a comment.
Okay, so I'd just like to ask I believe, Brian, are you there? Brian Murphy?
I am, Matt.
Yeah, do you have anything that you want to comment on?
No, not on that. I was listening for the property maintenance local law.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. Jessica, is who I meant to ask for. Jessica McMahon is our new treasurer, and I don't know if you have anything to say about this.
I don't have anything to say.
Okay, all right, very good. Okay, so if there's no comments, could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second,
second,
all those in favor?
aye,
Any opposed? Okay, could we get a motion to approve this, the resolution in support of local law number, are we ready to do this, or do we just
Yeah.
introduce this?
No, this has been advertised, and this was, this is ripe for public hearing, and it's ripe for your consideration. The only thing I would ask the village clerk is to give us the local law numbering so that, we can introduce it as local law number 2, I believe. Is that right, John?
This is the one that replaced chapter 114, right?
No, that's the next one.
That's the next one? Okay.
I think
That's the
this
one I was
one, I think this one would be number 4. And then the next one would be number 5.
This one's number 4.
I don't know. I had them numbered once and then we took the numbers off, and I don't have that data in front of me right now as
Okay.
to what the number would be.
So make it above and beyond the last number it is, and make it those, and you don't have to fill the other numbers.
That's why I say I think we can make it 4 and make the next one 5.
Well,
I don't know. We still haven't done one yet.
the Secretary of State won't let us out of number, so we will have to at least, advise the public in our minutes that it was deemed to be, what the next local law number is. I think it's local law number 2, to be honest, but I'm not 100% sure.
No, we passed number 2 a while back.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with John. We're on like 4 or 5.
Yeah, we can make it 4 and the next one 5 because we passed 2 and 3. I know we passed 2 and 3, and I believe it will be, this one can be 4 and the next one can be 5.
Okay.
And then next month in May, we do A.
The zoning amendment would be number 6, which is next
No,
month.
we got to stay in sequence, and we never did number 1. State will not let us go out of sequence.
Okay.
So we'll make A 1, and we can make this one 4 and maintenance 5.
Gotcha.
John, did we notice these 2 in the paper?
Absolutely.
Okay, so these are all good. So we confirmed that we noticed these, and so I'd like to ask if we could get a resolution, make a motion to pass this resolution, and it's for local law number 4 of the year 2020, creating the procurement policy, and it reads as follows: whereas the village to have the option to award certain purchase contracts subject to competitive bidding under general municipal law section 103 on the basis of low bid or best value as defined in section 163 of the New York State Finance Law. And the best value option may be used if it is more cost efficient over time to award the good or service to other than the lowest responsible bidder for factors such as lower cost of maintenance, durability, higher quality, and longer product life. And whereas after review and due consideration, the village board has determined that it would be in the best interests of the residents to adopt said local law. And whereas the village board has determined that pursuant to 6 NYCRR 617.5C20, the proposed adoption of the aforementioned law is a type 2 action not requiring environmental review pursuant to State Environmental Quality Review Act, and accordingly no environmental review has been undertaken. Now therefore be it resolved, the village board hereby introduces for consideration of its adoption proposed local law number 4 of the year 2020 in the form annexed hereto, And the village board has had its public hearing. So could I get a motion?
Before I make that motion, Mayor, can I just suggest that we just call this, since chapter 116, we'll just come up with a chapter number that because this is new legislation and we did not have it covered by, a previous chapter. So we can make any chapter, it has to be greater than 37. So it could be 38. You can call it chapter 38. Actually, it's got to be in alphabetical order. So it would be chapter 115.
Hold on.
Procurement policy, it would be after, it would be after peddling and soliciting, but before property maintenance. So it could be 111. We'll call it 111.
All right, hold on one second. I'm just. So are we good with that chapter? Or should we look it up on the,
No, there is no chapter that exists. So
There is not.
it has to be between 110 and 114. Peddling and soliciting is chapter 110. Property maintenance is 114.
okay,
So you can make a chapter number, could be 111, 12, or 13. Pick
okay,
one.
so this is chapter 111, so we'll change the resolution to note that it's chapter 111, John?
John Carge, yes.
Okay,
Just create
okay,
a brand new
so do I have
chapter.
a motion?
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
Seconded by trustee Davis. Trustee Huber,
Aye.
trustee Markajon is absent, trustee Komornik,
Aye.
trustee Panessa,
Aye.
trustee Davis,
Aye.
trustee Witten.
Aye.
Okay, so
So the new chapter 111 procurement policy has been adopted.
and I will record an aye for me too, John. So put me down as a yes, John Carge.
John Carge, yes, I will.
Okay, so could we get a motion to close? I think we closed the public hearing, right?
Yeah, the public hearing had been closed. because
Yeah.
The vote can't take place.
Yeah, you closed it.
Okay, so the next item is to take a look at the
Property maintenance code.
property maintenance code. So a resolution introducing this local law amending chapter 114 by repealing existing provisions in their entirety and adding new provisions. And you want to lead us through this one?
Yes. The board will recall we had a meeting in March that elicited a lot of opinions and concerns over some of the blighted properties in our village. And there were some, the discussions were quite strong. And after that particular meeting, our building department came together and we had meetings to discuss the present state of our legislation in the village. And we discovered that we had what we deemed to be an inadequate property maintenance code. And the only things that were covered under our legislation at the time had to do with overgrown grass and weeds. And what you have before you is what we believe to be a comprehensive response to cover way more conditions and blight and objectionable conditions. And it will really strengthen our property maintenance code so that stronger enforcement can occur. And the goal here is to have a uniform, clear, and enforceable ordinance that covers more areas of violations that our old ordinance didn't cover. So this new law will put those offenders on notice that the village means business, and we will not tolerate so-called bad neighbors. We'll do everything to make it a legal requirement to clean up your property and become a responsible property owner. And this is going to allow us to actually go after those zombie properties that are bank owned, that are in foreclosure hell, that we can't really get after known people. We can go after banks with the strengthened code. So this was circulated within the past couple of weeks for comment and review, and we feel that it's a good response to a lot of the residents' concerns. The original, you'll have before you, Mayor, if you can scroll down, you have before you the old version and a new red line version. And after going over it with Brian Murphy, who's on this call right now, we determined that some of the provisions in the old version needed to be cleaned up because they were covered by other areas of the code. And we wanted to also make the penalties, the fines, consistent with chapter 1 of our code. And I think now that we have a really clean, tight document and new ordinance for your consideration.
Okay. Are there any questions from the board?
No.
No, this is what we need.
Does Brian want to make any comment?
Brian, do you have anything to say? Brian Murphy?
I've reviewed it extensively, and I think it's going to be a really big help to my office in cleaning up a lot of the troubled properties. That's all.
Okay. All right. Are there any other comments?
Yeah, John Carge, as the village clerk and receiver of complaints, I think this is great in comparison to what we've had in the past. And I can see a lot of work went into this. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's no other comments, can we get a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make it.
So that was Trustee Huber?
Yep.
And was Trustee Panessa, do you want to second it?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of opening the public hearing?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Are there any public comments, Rich?
There are none.
Okay, let the record reflect there's no public comments. That we did get some commentary during the discussion from our code enforcement officer and building inspector, Brian Murphy, and then and John Carge, our clerk. And can I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Panessa. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, so we're looking for a resolution to amend. This would be a resolution for local law number 5 of the year 2020, amending chapter 114, property maintenance, by repealing existing provisions in their entirety and adding new provisions. And it's whereas it has come to the attention of the village board that property owners who fail to maintain their property create adverse conditions that affect general health, safety, and welfare of the public by reducing the quality of life, adversely impacting property values, and facilitating the creation of blighted neighborhoods. And whereas the village board has determined that in order to protect and promote the public health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the village of Wappingers Falls, to prevent blight within the village and to prohibit the proliferation thereof, it is necessary to establish standards for the exterior maintenance of property yards and any buildings or structures thereon. And whereas the village board has determined that it is in the best interest of the citizens of the village to adopt this local law, which will authorize the village through its code enforcement officials to enter onto the property containing the offending condition in accordance with the provisions of this law, and to remove the same when the property owner fails or neglects to cure the violation, therefore preventing blighted neighborhoods and promoting the public health, safety, and welfare of the residents of the village. And whereas the village board has determined that the proposed local law is an action for which there are no other, has determined that the proposed action is an unlisted action pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law and Part 617 NYC-RR, commonly known as SEEKR. And whereas the village board has determined that the proposed local law is an action for which there are no other involved agencies, and the village board is therefore by default lead agency for this action.
Mayor, can you just make sure that you're reading the second version that was redlined? I think this might be the original one. Yeah, this is it.
That was it.
Okay.
So whereas the village board has determined that the proposed local law is an action for which there are no other involved agencies, and the village board is therefore by default lead agency for this action, could I have a motion for this resolution that reads that be it resolved, the village board hereby introduces for consideration of its adoption proposed local law number 5 of the year 2020 in the form annexed hereto. The village board has caused to be prepared a short form EAF and has reviewed the proposed action pursuant thereto, and hereby determines that the proposed action will not have a significant impact on the environment, and hereby makes a negative declaration of significance with respect to the proposed amendments, and that the village board hereby scheduled this public hearing for the proposed adoption of the annexed law for tonight. And could I get that motion?
I'll make it.
Trustee Komornick, second.
Second.
Seconded by Trustee Panessa. Trustee Huber.
Aye.
Trustee Markajon is absent. Trustee Komornick.
Aye.
Trustee Panessa.
Aye.
Trustee Davis.
Aye.
Trustee Witten.
Aye.
And you can mark me down as an aye, John, for the mayor.
John Carge, yes.
Okay, and so this is done. And so could I get a motion to, we close the public hearing? So that's good.
You know, the mayor, I want to go back. I want to make sure that the record's clear that we have repealed the old chapter 114 and we've replaced it with this entirely new document. So the board,
I think, doesn't it state that in the law?
it does.
That was stated, yeah.
Yeah, so I read that. I did read that each time that we were,
So this is local law number 5,
yep.
and this is chapter 114. And the old, for village clerk Carge, or the old chapter 14 is repealed in its entirety and replaced by this particular legislation.
John Carge, yes.
Okay.
We'll give you a non-red line version, but we wanted the board to see the changes that were made from the original to
Shut it off, 'cause
there were minor changes.
leave it, leave it, leave it.
Correct. That's why it's John Carge. That's why I put that in there.
Okay, Rich, are there any people to make comments on the budget?
No one has a hand raised.
Pardon me?
No, there are not. There are no hands raised in the meeting.
Okay. So could we get a motion to open the public hearing?
Well, we make a motion to resume the rules.
Could we get a motion to resume the rules?
I make a motion to resume rules.
And,
Second.
Second to resume the rules by Trustee Davis. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, could we get a motion to open the public hearing for the budget?
I'll make it.
Second.
Second? By
Second.
Trustee, that was Trustee Witten. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, and just, are there any hands raised to make comments, Rich?
No, there are not.
Okay, so then if there are no comments to be made, could I get a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And so the next motion is, this is for the proposed budget as it was presented tonight, April 29th, 2020, at this public budget hearing. And I would like to ask somebody from the board, if I can find it, to make a motion for this resolution. Okay, so the following resolution adopting the annual budget for the fiscal year 2020 to 2021. Please make note that the budget was put on the village website for all to make comment on after the April 22nd, 2020 meeting. And so and it was presented again tonight on April 29th at a public hearing. And the resolution would read as follows: whereas on April 8th, 2020, the village board, pursuant to and in accordance with the provisions of section 504 of the village law and other applicable provisions of law, as well as the governor's executive order regarding COVID-19, accepted the tentative budget. And whereas a public hearing on the tentative budget, a public budget discussion meeting was held on April 22nd, 2020, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf or in opposition to the proposed annual budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021. And whereas a public budget hearing on the proposed budget was held on April 29th, 2020, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf or in opposition to the proposed annual budget for the fiscal year 2020-2021. And whereas the village board has taken into consideration the comments made by the public at the public hearing, now therefore be it resolved pursuant to and in accordance with the provisions of Section 5508 of the Village Law and other applicable provisions of law, the annexed detailed statement of expenditures and revenues of the Village of Wappingers Falls is hereby approved and adopted as the annual budget of the Village of Wappingers Falls for fiscal year 2020-2021. And be it further resolved that the village clerk is hereby directed to enter the annual budget adopted herein in the minutes of the village board. And be it further resolved that the village board further directs that the amounts identified in the annual budget adopted herein shall be appropriated. Is there somebody that could make that motion?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
So second by trustee Panessa. Trustee Huber?
Aye.
Trustee Markajon is absent. Trustee Komornick?
Aye.
Trustee Panessa?
Aye.
Trustee Davis?
Aye.
Trustee Witten?
Aye.
And you can record me as mayor as an aye. And
Did you say Huber?
I think so. And I think we can, and I think that's it for the agenda. Am I correct? John?
Yes, Mayor, that's it.
Okay. So there's no other items on the agenda, and could I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make it.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Good night.
Night all.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good
Good night,
night.
Chet. Good night, Chet.
Yeah.
Night, John.